Regular meeting of City Council with the Committee of the Whole for Monday, March 28th, 2022 to order. And our first order of business this morning is our delegations. And we have Kathleen Connolly, the Chief Executive Officer, and Patty Adamson, the President of the Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce, are in attendance to provide a presentation to Council. Good morning, ladies. Welcome. We'll get another chair. And Kathleen, you can just activate the mic and we'll get it started. And you're good to go.
Excellent. Thank you. And good morning. I'll just wait till Patricia has a chair. Good morning. It's so nice to see you all. As the Mayor said, Kathleen Connolly, I'm the CEO of the Dawson Creek Chamber, and I want to introduce Patricia Adamson. Patricia is our chair and works with, she's a realtor, works with Royal LePage. So it was interesting. I watched council every council and noticed that there were some councillors that weren't familiar with some of the actions of who we are and what we do. So we thought we'd just give you an update. But I would like to take a moment to recognize both Councillor Dober and Earl, who have sat on our chamber executive in the past. Jeremy was a president, and I think Darcy was before my time, but I think you were both involved, so we appreciate that, and having that knowledge of us on council is great. So our role is to lead, promote, and protect the economic and social prosperity of Dawson Creek and District, and it's from the profitable operations of business that all other benefits result. Only by succeeding in this fundamental goal can a community provide the jobs and produce the wealth to finance all of the cultural, charitable, and various other needs a community is faced with every day. So that's our vision and mission statement. I think it's important to note that we are not funded by any government. We have our own revenue streams. We're independent of any funds other than what we generate ourselves. I did do a written submission for you, but I thought there were a few other things that I might like to share with you today on some of the other stuff we're working with. We've recently done advocacy letters to the federal and provincial government regarding fuel tax relief, which we were very disappointed to see $110 is the expected relief. So I think that our board tomorrow will be discussing that further and potentially some more advocacy around that. And we've also written the federal government around designating rail as an essential service, particularly because we are a resource-based industry. And with supply chain issues, we just can't have that sort of delay. I've done regular on-air interviews with CBC Daybreak, CGDC, and I sit with CKNW Vancouver, the Mike's My Show, quite often. The last one with CKNW was in regards to the equity stake agreement with Coastal GasLink, which of course is significant for our region. We are working with MLAs and chambers across the Northwest and the Northeast in regards to the electoral boundaries, and I know that this is a conversation that came up in council, so we're doing some work to educate our membership on why that is so important. We've also been working with Staff Sergeant Werrell and his team on creating two roundtables, one for crime prevention within the city for businesses, and we're meeting tomorrow to talk about rural crime prevention for businesses. So we'll continue to work with the RCMP on those projects. Of course, the most significant thing for our in-town business, and Councillor Wilbur was on that session, was petty theft. Shoplifting is a huge issue for our business community, so we'll continue to work with Damon on that. I know that Blair and Brenda had requested to look at our financials for 2021. They are with Sandra Bone, Rose Grindle right now. We'll release them at our in-person AGM, which is scheduled for May. But what I can let council know today is that the sale of our building, what we did with all of that revenue was we've put it into a tiered GIC, so over 3 years in different steps, so that it will generate through the course of that investment about $16,000 for our membership. We also have a savings account set aside with we've got about $700,000 that is sitting in a bank account for us. So the intention of that money is to be able to to put it into programs and benefits that our business community is looking for. And of course, we're always looking for partners to do things like what we did with Northern Lights College with the endowment fund. We put $20,000 into an endowment fund with Northern Lights College. And the purpose of that endowment fund is to support students who may not be able to necessarily afford tickets to get into their education of choice. And that is not only trades, I really need to clarify that. That is any ticket. So if you want to be a chef, if you want anything, this endowment fund would help to cover those costs. The other major project that we've been working on is our Keep Calm and Shop On. So 2 years ago when the pandemic started, we started a Facebook page and quickly gained about 2,500 followers. We use that page daily and get a ton of engagement on it. We applied to the federal government through the BC Chamber for a $70,000 grant for a website called Keep Calm and Shop On DC. And the purpose of that website is to encourage folks to shop locally, for our business community to get more of an online presence as we move through a global economy that is definitely shifting. And the third is to really show how important local supply chains are, particularly in our agriculture and manufacturing sectors. So really trying to encourage folks to pay more attention to what we have in our own community. To help cushion the effects of the global economy. We'll continue to contest right through the end of the year and keep that website active through summer holidays and Christmas holidays. And so we're really pleased with the engagement that we're getting right across the region, including the North Peace and Fort Nelson. And so we are a small board and staff, but we're very passionate about Dawson Creek and our business community and supporting it as much as we can. And so we're thankful for this opportunity and are looking for partnerships with the city or other groups that are looking to help create stability for our economy and for our businesses. And so we thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kathleen. Patricia, thank you. It's good to have you guys here this morning. Council, any questions, comments? So, Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Being the spokesperson for Love Dawson Creek, I just want to say kudos to the Chamber because it's a great opportunity to include all businesses. So it creates an inclusive opportunity within our community that not others have. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah. We're proud of it. We're really proud of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Certainly I watched with real pleasure to see the announcement of the college. I think that's a really beneficial, generous statement by the Chamber to be able to step that forward and provide that support to the students. So really great job. And obviously all of the proactive initiatives that you guys have taken on supporting and over the last couple of years especially, it's been really, really difficult. And so anyway, we really appreciate you guys being here this morning. I think it's really something that we should make sure we stay that regular connection with you guys and welcome you here.
Really appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. I think that these are new opportunities for us, and with the sale of that building, it gives us really an opportunity to engage in a new way and really to be able to invest in our business community and our community. And so we're really looking for those opportunities to engage with the city and some of the programs that the city is doing around economic development.
Well, and it was me that asked this. I thought I missed your AGM because I thought it was in February or March, and that's why I had asked for the reach out because I said, geez, I hope I didn't miss it. And they said, no, it's in May.
Oh, no,
so that
we'll make sure
awesome.
you're there.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming
so
in
much.
this morning.
Thank
Have a
you
great
very
week.
much for having us.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Our next item, we have a late item that I had asked to be brought forward, and so if I can have a motion from council to approve this late item. Councillor Wilbur, second Councillor Dober. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. And so let me get into it. And so now the proposed motion is really about what I felt was and we've seen over the weekend and late last week, a really horrific statement directed at the newly elected chief of the Blueberry First Nation. And so I wanted to raise this issue forward and certainly seek council's support of a proposed motion. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Yes, I would move this motion. So the motion is that the City of Dawson Creek strongly denounces racism in all forms. We were dismayed and saddened to hear of the horrible remarks towards the Blueberry River First Nations Chief Judy Desjardins regarding the province's proposed hunting closures. So we respectfully request the province to own their decisions and not to leave the potential for racism to be directed at our First Nations. We value the significant contributions to Indigenous peoples who have lived and worked on the land for time immemorial, thank you, and are committed to meaningful reconciliation to continue building a shared base on relationships and mutual respect, beginning with acknowledging, reflecting, and learning the truths.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dober. Discussion? Council? Yeah, they really, I don't know if any of council heard or saw the statement that was issued towards Chief Desjardins, but it really is, for us, it's, to me, it was certainly horrific to hear that directed to anybody. And certainly our work should be working together collaboratively in a spirit of ensuring that our relationships are based on respect and acknowledging and reflecting and learning from the past. And so I really appreciate council's support of this motion. Any further discussion?
I just like to add.
Go ahead, Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. I'd just like to add, too, that I understand at higher levels of government they make decisions, but to put somebody in such a position that they're taking the lash out is inexcusable. And to me, reconciliation means walking the walk. So I do hope the province hears what we're saying, what others are saying. And I'm sure council agrees, but I know on behalf of myself to Chief Desjardins, it breaks our heart that these things are happening. You are put in a position and asked to lead, and when you do, and then you get slammed for something you have no decision over, is inexcusable. To the people that doing it, get some knowledge, learn some things, and reach out, because you're not helping the community or the area, you're just dividing us further. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Any further comments? Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you for that, Council. Any other late items? Item 4, new councillor business. Councillor Wilbur? Sorry.
That's okay. I could have just left it on. Thank you. I'm bringing this forward in hopes that council will agree, and we'll move it forward to NCLGA at their next AGM. We've heard from MLA Bernier regarding the boundaries and the BC Electoral Boundary Commission doing some research on combining areas. For those of us in North Central BC, this can be devastating. So we're going to lose a lot of seats. And so I am proposing the following. Whereas recent amendments made to the Electoral Boundary Commission Act in 2021 will allow the redrawing of electoral boundaries in British Columbia, whereby large geographical areas in the province may be amalgamated due to their lower populations, thereby resulting in rural areas being represented by a single member of the Legislative Assembly. And whereas a lower representation of members in the Legislative Assembly is not in the best interests of rural regions of British Columbia, whose remoteness and distinctive character were once carefully enshrined within the electoral boundaries legislation, which protected 17 rural electoral ridings. Therefore, be it resolved that the North Central Local Government Association lobby the Electoral Boundary Commission and the provincial government to demonstrate equality and fairness by ensuring fair representation of rural and northern communities in the Legislative Assembly, where decisions are made that impact all British Columbians, including the rural regions, which are resource-rich sectors that strengthen the province's economy for the benefit of all British Columbians.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp, discussion?
I would just like to add that if council votes to put this through, that I will speak to it at NCLGA at the AGM in Fort St. John.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Wilbur. Any further discussion? You ready for the question? And all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other new councillor business, council? Minutes. Item 5.1, the minutes of our special meeting of council of March 7th, 2022 for adoption. Councillor Kemp, second Councillor Dober. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. It's carried. And the minutes of our regular meeting of council for March 14th, 2022 for adoption. Move Councillor Wilbur, second Councillor Earl. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising out of the minutes for anyone? So we'll go to correspondence. Item 7.1, we have a letter from Leonard Casely, Mayor of the Corporation of the Village of New Denver, regarding a request for support of Russia's invasion in the Ukraine nation.
I think we might want to reword how that was written. I think he was asking for the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So we can have a motion. Are you, Councillor Earl, you going to make a motion, or?
I mean, I was just pointing that out. I think obviously we're flying the Ukrainian flag above City Hall. Our position's pretty clear. Is this something municipal governments generally chime in on, foreign affairs?
Well, I think we have two options to either send a letter of support the resolution and or receive it for information. Sorry.
I'll move we receive for information.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Dober. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Earl. 7.2, we have a letter from Henry Braun, Mayor of the City of Abbotsford, regarding a request for support for their resolution regarding municipal costs through the Build Back Better funding. Kevin, do you want to just give a quick update on terms of what exactly the implications of this support is in regards to the Build Back Better funding?
Through your worship, I'd like to, but I'm not terribly familiar with it.
So it was my understanding that this Build Back Better funding restricts you to build it exactly the same, and you can make no improvements to the infrastructure?
That's correct. Sorry, yes. We did chat a little bit about this last week, and so what it is that whenever we have events such as flooding we've had in the community and we've lost infrastructure, and we have funding from the government to replace, we are bound by replacing what was there. So if for some reason the infrastructure is undersized or for whatever reason, we're unable to bring it up to a new standard. So it does limit us in that regard.
Thank you. So in the case where we've had the insurance on the culverts that were washed away in the floods in 2016, was it? At 15th Street, and we had them insured, and they were paid for by the insurance, and they allowed us to replace it with a bridge and not force us to replace them back with culverts. And I think it's a really strong message that we do support Mayor Braun in that, you know what, if they're going to pay it, even if you have to pay the additional money to build the infrastructure, build it back better and build it back properly rather than just what you had, which may just exacerbate future issues with that infrastructure. So, motion. Councillor Wilbur?
Sure, I would move that we grant the request, and I think they're asking for a letter of support.
I think they're requesting that we support that resolution at LGMA as well as at the upcoming UBCM.
probably. So I would move that we support the resolution.
Thank you. And we will be attending UBCM, and as the directors and alternates will be prepared to support that at that time. Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp, any discussion on that? All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.3, we have an email from Kathy Peters, the BC Anti-Human Trafficking Educator, requesting that we write a letter to the federal minister. Councillor Wilbur?
Sure, I would, I'm going to move that we receive for information.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have an email from the Western Region Engagement regarding a request to share information regarding the Data Lens British Columbia. And that's the census news from this year. Councillor Earl?
I move we approve the request and use our various channels to help them share the information.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Wilbur, discussion? Councillor Earl?
I did, when the census came out, check out some of the stats, and it's pretty neat to see the incremental changes in the region over 5 years. Not a ton of detail, most of it around demographics, but to see population changes in various communities throughout the region. Dawson Creek is up a little bit. I think Pouce Coupe's down like 70 people. Area D is down almost 1,400 people, according to that. So it's interesting to look at, and if nobody's ever done it who's watching this, I urge you to check it out. It's a pretty phenomenal resource for anybody who's interested in civics, and yeah.
Thank you. I think the one thing, the general public would never appreciate how significant the issue of population and the census information is to any of us as community, and how sometimes funding and allocation of funding comes to a city based on some of that foundational data that comes out of that census. So I know people have sometimes that lack of trust and lack of willingness to sometimes participate in it. But I really believe that if people understood and appreciated how important the census is for us, that they would hopefully participate. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. And I know there was a few years ago where the census for a time became a political issue where the issue you mentioned did become prevalent among some people. And the one thing I would always cite is each and every year, the government compels you by law to fill out in great detail how much money you make, and then takes a significant chunk of it. Once every 5 years, it asks you for a few details so that it can more effectively allocate those funds. So,
Yeah.
well worth the effort.
Thank you. Any further discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Our last piece of correspondence, 7.5, we have a letter from the hospitality sector regarding the letter to the municipalities regarding reducing the patio application red tape in BC's hospitality sector and the economic recovery. Councillor Earl? Everybody's waiting for Darcy to push the button.
Well, that was fun. I mean, I'm not opposed to, of all the things we had to muddle our way throughout the pandemic. I think giving those in the hospitality sector more opportunities to generate revenue and make better use of their facilities is one of the things I'd be perfectly fine with hanging on to. I'm just wondering through staff, with respect to, and you might not be prepared for this, so I apologize if that's the case, but with respect to some of the expedited outdoor patio stuff in relation to this letter that we as a council approved during the pandemic, are any of those things set to expire, or are those basically permanent until we say otherwise?
No, through your worship, I believe through the pandemic, when we had the applications for those outdoor patios, I believe they were somewhat seasonal, obviously due to our weather, and we worked with various applicants through the process to expedite, and if there's a continued interest, we would do the same. We haven't seen a lot of interest, due to our climate, but anybody that's interested, we have some mechanisms in place to work with them for sure.
Okay. So then in your mind, is there any action required on this and above and beyond what we've already done, or are they?
I think they're just looking for our support to ensure that we do whatever we can to assist that support to allow the reduction of that red tape and some of that stuff towards the enhancement of the patios and hospitality sector.
So, and I think that's worthwhile, and I'd be willing to do it in general. Does it require us to codify the intent in a motion, or are we just good to leave as is?
Through your worship, I think a motion for continued support is great. I think we've got those things in place, and we'll continue to do so and work with the local hospitality. Okay,
so I'll make the motion then. That would, in keeping with this request from the BC Hospitality or these various interest groups, that we continue to support reducing patio application red tape for BC's hospitality sector and economic recovery.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dober, any discussion? I mean, I certainly remember 2 years ago when at the initiation of the first stage and wave of the public health orders, and certainly the restaurants who were then looking to expand to outdoor spaces and the installation of the outdoor tents and enhancing patios was something that was really evident in 2020 and early 2021. So I agree. I think we've been through historical times, and we need to ensure that we're always, I believe, proactively moving forward to assist those small business folks with whatever they need to continue viability of their businesses. Any further comments, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 8 is reports. 8.1, we have report number 22014 from the corporate officer regarding the council appointments required to and for the organizing committee for the 2023 NCLGA AGM. So we are applied to host the 2023 NCLGA in partnership with the other communities in the region. Chetwynd have expressed interest in supporting that joint effort, as they did a few years ago when we hosted it. Tumbler Ridge have indicated they're not interested. Peace River Regional District Area Directors have indicated that they're withdrawing their membership from payment of their membership dues to as part of NCLGA. And so with the AGM coming up in May, we'll need to be there to accept the, at the conclusion of it, accept the 2023 NCLGA conference for Dawson Creek. And we'll need to have the names of 2 councillors appointed as the committee. And that's what we'll need today to see if any of our councillors are willing to be those council appointed reps. Councillor Earl? Thank you. Councillor Wilbert? Thank you. So could we have that by way of a motion that we would appoint Councillor Earl and Councillor Wilbur as the appointments to the organizing committee for the 2023 NCLG AGM and convention in Dawson Creek. Councillor Kemp, thank you. Second. Councillor Dober, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Wilbur?
Don't promise anyone bison.
They sometimes forget. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 8.2, we have report number 22028 from the corporate officer regarding the nominations for the city's South Peace Mile Zero Park Society directors, and we have that annual responsibility to appoint our directors, and we have the two names brought forward who were directors and are willing to be nominated. Councillor Wilbur?
I'll move that report number 22.
Oh, sorry, Councillor. Go ahead, Councillor Wilbur.
I'll move that report number 22-028 from the corporate officer regarding the South Peace Mile Zero Park Society directors be received. Further, that Brina Casey and Christy Rose be nominated as the city's representatives to be elected or appointed to the Mile Zero Park Society board at their 2022 annual general meeting.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Earl, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 8.3, we have report number 22029 from the Capital Project Manager, RFP 2022-07, 2022 Capital Works, 96th Avenue, 13th Street to 17th Street. Councillor Kemp? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 22-029 from the Capital Projects Manager regarding request for proposals 2022-07 Capital Roadworks Program 96th Avenue, 13th Street to 17th Street be received. Further, the council award the contract from RFP 2022-07 Capital Roadworks Program 96th Avenue, 13th Street to 17th Street to Swamp Donkey Oilfield Services for the price of $4,075,349.77 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dober, discussion. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. I had two questions. One, just there's obviously a little bit of shortfall, which I think we were expecting with the way things are today, but do we have that in reserves, or where is that coming from?
So through your worship, this is the first of three projects that we're tendering for roads this year. So this is 96th Avenue, we've got one for 94th, and then we've got the first phase of Camarlo work. So the overall kind of envelope for those three projects is just shy of $11 million. So what will happen is if council awards this project, that shortfall is kind of coming from that overall envelope.
Oh, okay.
And as we go through that last project that's tendered, we may have to look at reduced scope depending where those tenders come in.
Okay, perfect. And then my other question, just reading through this, it brought up, I brought up last year about the light posts on 15th Street, just how they're all different elevations of the ground. So I was just, knowing that we're doing some light work here, one, I want to make sure that, it is done proper, but two, I was wondering for a follow-up on where we're at with the ones on 15th.
So through your worship, yes, obviously, we've had a few comments, concerns about that. So we'll ensure that when those are installed, that they're meeting the tolerances, which I think the contract calls for the elevations to be between 50 and 100 millimeters above finished grade. The challenge with the previous projects was the lights were put in early in the project, and obviously the piles, the finished grade wasn't identified, and so hence the piles, there was a little bit more variability with it. We've been working with the contractor who installed them, and we've also been looking at some options for putting some collars around those to see what we can do. We've reached out to Northern Lights College to see if they could help us. So we're looking at options, and we're hoping here in the spring that we can come up with a few, and also our welder internally, just to see what the most cost-effective means are. And like I say, we'll see what we can come up with, but hopefully we can get that cleaned up this summer.
Yeah, putting a collar might be the most affordable.
Yeah.
Just, I guess to me, when I look at it, it's like building a house. If you're gonna, build a house and only put trim in half of it, like it's just not finished properly. So we spend that much money on something and it doesn't look, so,
Yeah, agreed.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dober. Any further comments, questions? Thank you, Kevin. And we'll call the question. Sorry, Councillor Earl, go ahead.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up on so with respect to the envelope of $11 million, assuming that this one project isn't an aberration and this cost escalation stands across the board, it's going to be reduced scope as opposed to, okay, what would that reduced scope look like?
So through your worship, I mean, it's tough to tell until we
Yeah.
get the next
And-
tender, and that starts to paint the picture. Like you say, if this trend continues, then likely we're going to see where we're, potentially may need to find, or remove, I guess, anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million worth of work out of, out of a project. But we'll see what the next one comes in, and that'll tell us. But the trend is there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Councillor Javetkov?
So the lights, was there a vote taken on the street and the landowners are paying for part of it?
So through your worship, no. If you recall what we've done, we haven't done the local area service anymore. What we've instituted is the 1.5% levy across the board for road infrastructure. So
So that was for the asphalt, but I thought on 15th Street, there was a requirement for the landowners to pay part of the lighting.
oh, sorry, you're talking about the previous project.
Yeah.
No, I don't recall, but I don't believe we did local area service for that either. I think that's when council had made that decision.
So there is no requirement for landowners to pay any part of the improvements.
I don't believe so on that one, no.
Okay. The other thing was, this was a request for proposals. It's nice to see that the low bid got the nod. I was just wondering about the rating system. How were the two projects, or how were the two submissions rated?
So that, it should have been a tender, and it was a tender. And I think that just in the title of RFP, the title of it, that was the mistake, is it actually was a tender. So we issued specifications, they bid our price, and it was
So
price.
this isn't a common request for proposals, is not the way we're gonna proceed for these types of projects.
Not typically, no. Proposals are something you utilize when maybe you don't have a defined set of specifications, and you're more about trying to find a solution for a project. When it comes to road work and underground, we work through the MMCD contracts, and we issue a very specific thing that we're looking for. And so it's very clear what they're bidding on, and so we go through that tender process.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Oh, no, I was...
Oh, sorry. Any further discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Item 9, bylaws, and we have number 9.1, we have 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Bylaw 4050 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Wilbur, move. Second. Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 9.2, we have report number 22019 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding the Water Conservation Measures Amendment Bylaw number 4518, 2022. Councillor Dober, moving. Do you want to, can we get you to read the recommendation? Sorry.
I don't see the recommendation on there.
It should be on page 3 of 7. Oh, you're on the attachment. You're on the bylaw itself. If you go up to page 3, I think, Darcy.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. New at this. I move that report number 22019 from the General Managers of Development Services, Reason Water Conservation Measures Amendment Bylaw number 4518/2022 be received. Further, that the Water Conservation Measures Amendment Bylaw number 4518/2022 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you. Second?
Sure.
Councillor Wilbur? Discussion? So this is a change to the bylaw where we've had watering 2 days a week for our residential addresses, and this year we're bringing about a change to that where even numbered addresses will be able to water 3 days a week and then 4 the next, and vice versa. And so it gives more frequency of watering, and for those that choose to do it, and opens that up to a little more opportunity during the summer months to provide that service. So good job, you guys. Thank you for bringing this forward. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. 9.3, we have report number 22027 from the corporate officer regarding the Nowakan Friendship Center land exchange. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. I'll move that report number 22-027 from the corporate officer, reason Nowakan land exchange be received. Further, that the land exchange agreement between the Nowakan Friendship Center and the City of Dawson Creek, dated for reference the 28th day of March 2022, be approved. Further, that the land sale bylaw number 4523/2022 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion? Kevin, could you give a brief update on for the public in terms of what this is?
Yes, through your worship. So as part of the 102nd Avenue Bridge project, and just how that had to be constructed and the channel had to be altered, we required some of the land that is currently owned by the Nowakan. So we've been working with them for a period of time and just came up with an agreement on what that would look like. So just going through that process now to finalize.
Thank you. Any questions for council? Comments? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff. That concludes the reports and bylaws. Item 10 is the mayor's business. 10.1, we've attended the monthly meeting with the Dawson Creek Local Community Table Meeting, which is the primary care network through the Southeast Division of Family Practice. So the physicians from Dawson Creek, Chow, and Tumbler Ridge are working hard at building this patient care network through primary care and through the Division of Family Practice. It's really been good work, and excited about how that's moving forward to enhance and build even a stronger model of primary care services in the region and for our community. Held a meeting with the representatives of from Calgary and locally from Tourmaline, and they were just up and had an opportunity to spend an hour with them. Tourmaline obviously are very active in the region, and lots of very positive relationships both within our community and the region. Built that propane export facility, a rail facility out up around Pink Mountain 101 that are exporting propane direct to Prince Rupert. That's been a very beneficial getting liquids, additional liquids out of the region, and Tourmaline are certainly very active in our community and within the region, higher and local, and supporting local, and we always really appreciate the support from them. We held a meeting monthly with the provincial representatives from the province in regards to the decision that was brought down last fall on the blueberry EAHA decision and the province of British Columbia. And they just give us an update on a monthly basis in terms of the outcomes of that negotiations with the blueberry as well as Treaty 8. And honestly, from all accounts, and certainly that's confidential in terms of what and how that negotiation takes place, but we're really optimistic that the province is moving it along in a way that's going to get to a resolve quickly, and we see the industry and normalcy of business being brought back in terms of getting that litigation resolved with blueberry and the cumulative impacts to Treaty 8 in this region. I went down on Monday and spent the day with Mayor Hall. They were hosting the World Curling Championships, the World Women's Curling Championships, and I wanted to go down and support that event in behalf of the Prince George and region. Really, really well done by CN and Prince George in terms of hosting the world curlers into the northern British Columbia, and got a chance to tour their facility. It was really good to see the CN Centre when they're hosting a major international event like that, and the similarities between the Ovindiv Event Centre and CN when they're doing those things. It was really evident. Well done, well organized, and so I really appreciated the opportunity to attend with Lynn and support the World Curling Championships. When I was there, I spent an afternoon with Lynn, and we toured around downtown Prince George, and it was really remarkable to me. I've been down there for a couple years, and to see the amount of development that's gone around in Prince George downtown, new hotels, new facilities, new seniors complexes. They've really done a great job, and my compliments to Mayor Hall and his council and the city of Prince George. There was an announcement last Friday or Thursday, I can't remember what day it was, in regards to Northern Health announcing some addition of orthopedic services into Fort St. John, and the concern over what did that mean to Dawson Creek. And so really the acute care services that are provided in any community are the foundation of primary care. Your primary care model of service that you receive from your family physician is built on a foundation that they have the ability to refer to acute care services, maternity, oncology, general surgery, orthopedic surgery, on and on. And so Northern Health now are looking at the addition of orthopedic services into Fort St. John. Dr. Fletcher is here, and he'll continue to provide, and the second orthopedic surgeon is here as well, providing those orthopedic services. And the intention is to bring that hospital and Fort St. John into a higher level of care, and so that hopefully one day where they have 3 orthopedic surgeons and 2 general surgeons and the internist, et cetera, that we have a stronger level of acute care services in Fort St. John, but not at the expense of, and I guess that's my message, was not at the expense of our orthopedic program in Dawson Creek or our general surgery or our psychiatric or our oncology or our maternity. And in fact, the way to me it's been explained is that they'll open up even more elective and more surgery here with the opening of the new hospital, which is then a benefit to our community and region where we have the orthopedic surgeons and having increased access. So we'll stay on it. I met with Dr. Fletcher last week. I met with the Division of Family Practice. I met with the board. I met with the CEO of Northern Health, and will continue to lobby in terms of ensuring that the province, we do not see a reduction of any of the services currently available in our community as it relates to acute care services and or for the future with our new hospital. So I wanted to give an update to council on that. Any questions from anybody on any of those? 10-2, we had our delegation request from the chamber. I didn't get any ask from the chamber, so we don't have anything that we need to move from there. Item 11, the CAO operational update. Kevin, do you have anything? Did the CAO leave you with anything as he was heading out of town?
Not too much. Through your worship, I thought I'd just give a quick update on the organizational review. As 2 weeks ago, we started the interviews with a NOVA group they were in, and met with some councillors and a number of staff at all levels. And everybody I spoke to thought the process went very well, and understanding that they will be back to provide a report near the end of April. So fairly quick turnaround.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything new on the diary? Consent calendar, we have 2 items, email from Elisa Thompson and copy of the application from Golden Cabs to increase their rates. Is there anything anyone would like to lift from the consent calendar? Can I have a motion to approve receipt of the consent? Councillor Wilbur, second. Councillor Kemp, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Strategic priorities, nothing new. Media, and so with that, we'll go to our committee of the whole. I'm assuming, is Staff Sergeant here?
I've seen him out there.
Oh, okay, great. Let's we'll begin then and invite the Staff Sergeant in. Good morning, Damon.
Morning, Your Worship.
Welcome.
Council, thank you for allowing me to speak with you today.
Good to see you.
Sorry, my hips are a little wide with all this stuff on. So. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. I'm here to provide you the policing report for February. So I'll get right into the resource reporting. Over February, we did have 1 officer arrive. That's Constable Cameron Billingsley, and he'll be paired now with a trainer for the next 6 months. We do have another, even at the time, since I've written this report, we've had 2 new officers arrive since that time. So 2 more on board now as well for March. And at least 3 new recruits arriving within the next 60 to 90 days, give or take. So again, I find ourselves in a really good position going into summer. Very few vacancies that we're operating with right now. The only vacancies we have at the time of writing this report was 5 soft temporary vacancies, that being 3 members on maternity and paternity and 2 off-duty sick or injured. One of those members that are off-duty sick or injured has just returned today, so that'll be even smaller in the next report that I give to you. So again, a great report resourcing-wise, and it's looking great going into summer. So. For crime trend reporting, for the period of January 1st of this year to February 28th of this year, we've seen a total of 1,229 calls for service. That's down from last year when we saw 1,265, or a decrease of 3%. Of those, 81% within the city and 19% in the rural area. And that's a little bit higher than I usually report to you. Usually that difference is about 79-21, sometimes 80-20. So it's a little bit higher now. And it's a little bit early in the year to see where our trends are going, but that's something that I'll be watching. Is we're indicating so far maybe a little bit more calls for service within the city than in the rural area. We don't usually see that split being 81-19. So comparative to last year for the same time period, that's equating to a decrease of calls for service within the city of 2% and a decrease in the rural area of 7%. When I look at our separate crime trend groups, really a mismatch of increases and decreases across the board. Again, it's a little bit early in the year to kind of identify where we're going yet. Theft of vehicle, so far this year, we've seen an increase of 62% compared to last year. That's a difference of 21 calls this year versus 13 last year. We're dealing with pretty small numbers because we're early in the year still. So don't let the huge increases or decreases scare you too much. And theft of vehicles is a funny one too. I don't know if you saw, I think I mentioned it last time I was here, but I can't remember. Sent out a media release about one person that had stolen 4 vehicles in the morning within like 2 hours. Each of those vehicles had the keys left in them. One had been left with running in the driveway. So something like that completely can skew our stats, especially when I'm only dealing with 60 days. So theft from vehicle, break and enter to residence decreases there 8% and 14% respectively. Break and enter to business, an increase of 44%, keeping in mind that that's 13 calls for service this year versus 9 last year. So we're looking at an increase of 4 calls for service. Most of those in the rural area. The compressor stations and spread throughout the Peace region, the south and the north, are getting hit pretty hard right now. Assault with a weapon, aggravated assault, we're seeing an increase of 48%. Sex assault, sexual interference, down by 56%. Drug possession, drug trafficking, a decrease of 89%, pretty huge decrease there. Impaired driving, a decrease of 32%. Motor vehicle collisions, down 11%. Thefts, an increase of 142%. So far this year, 87 calls for service. We had 36 calls last year. That's a pretty high number and a pretty big difference. I know that our businesses are getting hit very hard with shoplifting right now. And this is calls for service that are within the city as well as the rural area that we're having to deal with theft. And when I'm saying theft, it's mostly our smaller thefts, the petty thefts, the backyard thefts, and things going missing from people's backyards, and the shoplifting calls, that kind of stuff. So that is definitely an issue that we're looking at right now. Mental health, decrease of 26%, and COVID-related calls, a decrease of 97%, thankfully. I put that on there last year because we were taking quite a bit of calls for service. This time last year, we had taken 39 calls for service, only 1 so far this year. So it's nice to see that those calls are not occupying police resources as they were last year. So. And then for our policing priorities, we're still in the process of setting up or identifying our policing priorities for the new year. 2021 policing priorities are wrapped up. So I'm just in the midst of doing stakeholder engagement right now. I've met and done a couple of presentations, to which Councillor Earl was involved in one. So I am going to reach out to the council here and see if I can get before you to make a quick presentation to show you where our 3-year and 5-year stats are, because that's really where I identify our crime trends. I don't look too much at the 12 months because, like I said, one person can change that. But when we look at a larger time frame over 3 or 5 years, I kind of get an idea of where we're going and where we're headed to. So I'll do a presentation before yourselves as well as Poos Koopy, and then identify what our policing priorities are for the new year. So pending any questions, that's all I have for you today.
Thank you, Damon. Any questions? Damon, the theft of both break and enters and you mentioned the shoplifting. Is there any, so last year and the last couple of years being the COVID years where we saw a reduction in the result of some of the, where there was fewer people being out and around, is there any correlation now in terms of us returning? Is that looking at that big increase of 142% from 36 to 87, is there any normalcy now going back to what it was normally prior to COVID?
I think it's higher than it was before COVID. Honestly, I mean, times are tough right now, and I think that has a direct effect on, and on the smaller thefts, the people going into the dollar store, for example, and stealing $30 worth of stuff. So, I'm very thankful for Networks Ministries and the agencies that we have in town that support, the people that, that need the help. So, I think that number would be a lot worse. When COVID initially came out and we had to wear masks in stores, I thought we were going to get nailed every day with thefts or robberies because people were already masked up. So they're already wearing their masks into the stores, but we didn't actually get an increase due to the face masks as I thought we would. But we're seeing that number climb now.
Okay.
So,
thank you. Councillor Domer?
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Damon. I just had a question, and I maybe you already answered this last year. I know there was some talk about doing bike patrol. Are you guys still looking at doing that this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think and when I'm reporting the resource reporting to you, and we're going to be in a great position for the summer. I'm very happy to say that we're going to have police officers actually, I think, visible and more downtown, more visible, and foot patrols for sure, and absolutely bike patrols is still on the list. We had trouble getting training lined up last year because our training center down in Chilliwack was shut down, but it's up and going now, and we do have a member trained on the bike. I don't know why we have to get trained to ride a bike, but we do. I feel silly saying that, but we do. We do have a member trained up on the bike patrol program, so I'll have at least one out there, but my intention is to get more officers trained. Yeah, we already have the equipment. We have the bicycles sitting there. They just need someone in the seat. So I absolutely will try and get someone trained, and it's my hope to increase police visibility downtown for sure.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, it might help with some of the trends a bit, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just touching on the petty theft and the prevalence of that, and as you said, things being taken out of people's backyard, vehicle theft. And we've had this discussion before. One area where we are, I guess, uniquely vulnerable to this type of crime is as a border community, there are chronic offenders who have learned to game the system so that they just hop across the border to sell hot merchandise or what have you, and that the bureaucracy of having to deal with your colleagues across the border, and it at times complicates the ability to actually address these crimes. Has there been any substantive conversations about how we can better support, better address that? Because it does seem like, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back, and it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's just a function of geography and bureaucracy.
Yeah, there was a period of time where we really struggled with interprovincial and interjurisdictional crime. There was a few years where we couldn't even talk on the radio to our officers in our RCP officers in Beaver Lodge, for example, like 30 kilometers away or 40 kilometers away, or in Hythe in Spirit River. So that really tied our hands when we're trying to work with neighboring detachments and pool our resources to intercept our interjurisdictional offenders. But we've made a lot of progress, I think, over the last year or two. Like now we can actually talk to them on the radio. We do have an intel sharing group for the South Piece that includes all of our surrounding detachments. So we share information and pictures of vehicles and people that are working in the area. And it allows us to work a little bit closer together than we were, a year or two before. So I think we're in a better position now than we were a year or two before, and I think we're moving in the right direction with that. So you're talking a little bit more about organized crime groups, and I think we have a pretty good handle on organized crime groups. We have the right people that we're targeting, whereas the theft calls are more the thefts of opportunity and people walking around, seeing something in the backyard, jumping in, trying to take it and sell it, on the side type thing. So even as I came over here this morning, we had a call from a neighbor calling in someone jumping in the back of his neighbor's yard and trying to take something. So for those kind of thefts, really the best thing to do is encourage what we saw this morning is have your neighbors call in suspicious activity. If you see someone in the area that doesn't belong, or certainly in your neighbor's yard, call it in and we can get there and grab the person, find out what's going on, as we did this morning. So
cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Thanks, Damon. I know that you had reached out through the chamber, businesses came on, you did a Zoom meeting with everybody. So when it comes to the petty theft, the shoplifting, and I know you offered, and so my question is, have any of those businesses reached out to your offer to have the RCMP come to kind of look at what they could do to improve, their security and stuff? So there's a lot of calls, and I know that some of them are repeat offenders, and they have their trails that they take. And the reason I'm asking is because I want to put it out there that it's one thing to call the RCMP, but it's another thing to make sure your business is secure as well. So when an offer's made, I like to follow up to see if anybody participated in that.
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
Not to date anyways.
Well, I'll reach out to Kathleen and we'll see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Thank you, Damon. Appreciate you coming in this morning.
Council.
Have a great week.
You too.
16.2, we have the report from Spectre Venue Management, Tourism Dawson Creek. Good morning, Dustin. Welcome.
Good morning, Your Worship, Council. Thank you for allowing me to come and present this morning. So in front of you, you have our quarterly report, and obviously since the last time I was here, so much has changed. I think right before Christmas, we were at a capacity of 50 people with many other different mandates, and now looking ahead, many of those have been lifted, and we're filling up the calendar for April, May, and June, and looking for opportunities into the fall of 2022 and winter of 2023. One of the big successes since the new year has been these monthly comedy nights that we've been hosting in Co-op Mercer Hall. First off, great opportunity for people in the community and region to come out once a month and experience a little bit of entertainment. But also, an opportunity to, kickstart the business again, bring back some part-time staff, start that engine, turn on some equipment, look at our systems, and so that when we have larger events, we're ready. With some of those larger events, obviously you may have seen in the past couple weeks a few exciting announcements. Obviously, bringing back an event such as Lobster Fest for the first time in 3 years is a great community event and something that we're looking forward to once again working with the Southeast Oilmans group and bringing that event into the building. Last week we announced Brett Kissel for June 11th as well. You've seen the Dawson Creek Exhibition and Rodeo Association also pop up in an event for later in April with a rodeo for 2 nights within the building. Another kind of interesting thing, obviously with so much pent-up demand of entertainment, we've seen some new trends over the past couple months with some of these announcements and on sales where for a couple of the events, such as Monster Trucks, some of the actual ticket sales have exceeded expectations and are showing, even more promising than they were back in 2019 and 2020 when we last hosted these events. Also, I like to kind of tip the hat to our food and beverages department for always coming up with new, creative, innovative ideas. We welcomed a new staff member right before Christmas, an executive chef that we brought from the Lower Mainland to Dawson Creek. They have some family in the region, so it was a perfect match. And he's been able to create some exciting opportunities, whether it's, take-home Christmas dinner packages or Super Bowl packages. And even right now, we're planning some, Easter dinner packages for anyone that's interested in, having a full cooked meal prepared for them. Obviously, in the last quarter, with the ramping up for some of our events, staffing has been one of the things that we've been really focusing on, and bringing back and training some of our part-time casual staff, and also doing hiring blitzes in the building to bring on new people for a variety of positions: security, food and beverage, suite servers, additional operations labor, et cetera, so that, again, when we bring 3,000, 4,000 people into the venue, we have all those people prepared, trained, and ready to go. Obviously, this time of year, we also just completed our 2021 financial audit, which, again, was successful, and all that information has now been turned over to Ms. Vedder and the City of Dawson Creek, and it'll be reported out in our annual report in a couple months' time. One of the other kind of things that I just want to kind of touch on, again, I'm always amazed with what our operations staff is capable of. They work across the entire Southeast Multiplex. Right now, we're just kind of reviewing a bunch of data that our Director of Operations, Tyler Hawkins, does on an annual basis at the facility, and really recaps the utility usage, cost savings, how much electricity is used throughout the entire multiplex. Has really helps tell that story and of different trends over the years, cost of carbon tax and how that impacts the entire venue. So again, that will be shared with council in snippets in our annual report this year. The other thing, just to mention, with all of these events ramping up, all this other activity that's happening. One thing that we're very proud also of is all the community usage that has been scheduled in the building over the last couple of years, and that's something that we're going to continue to do, working with Aaron and Shante and the team here to ensure that we eliminate as many dark days as possible moving forward. On the tourism side, obviously, as we've discussed in previous reports, the pandemic has had a significant impact on the hospitality and tourism industry. And with all these restrictions lifting, we're hoping for a better year in 2022 than we've seen in the past couple. Based on what we're hearing from elsewhere, it's not just going to be a flick of the switch and it's going to be back to the 2019 type season, but better than the last two, right? So it's going to take a couple of years to kind of rebuild that sector across Canada. One promising thing right now is that the number of tour groups that actually haven't been able to tour in the last couple of years. Right now we're booked up to about approximately 15 different RV tours that start their trip at mile zero and head up the Alaska Highway. So, again, that's a good start for the past couple of years without any of those tours traveling the highway. Also, we're starting conversations again with the Dawson Creek Exhibition Association on how we can support their 100th anniversary event. Again, anniversary events are great, brings additional people into the community, so looking forward to that event this summer as well. Those are kind of some of the highlights in both the Event Center and tourism at this point, but if Mayor and Council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything you might have.
Thank you, Dustin. Council, any questions? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Dustin. Good to see you, and I'm glad things are picking up. It's been a rough couple of years for all of us. So I'm pleasantly surprised to hear that you're hearing from tour groups looking to go up the highway, given the price of gas. I thought that would have a dampening effect or impact on, given the type of tourism we see in particular. That's a big concern. Also, and this is just curiosity from having worked in your industry for a number of years, with all the touring acts chomping at the bit to get back out on tour, is it a bit of a buyer's market as far as prices go, as far as shows and stuff? Just out of curiosity, it's because there's going to be an abundance of people who haven't been able to generate revenue for 2 years. So
yeah. No, thanks for both those questions. First off, I do think that the fuel prices are going to have an impact on the traveling sector this visitor season, without a doubt, right? Even 3 months ago, I would never have dreamed that we'd be paying $1.81 this morning, and potentially close to $2, come May long weekend, if things continue in that direction. So I think that will have an impact on some travelers' decisions to travel long distances. It is surprising that we do have 15 tour groups already booked, but also there is a specific travel market or group sector that's what they enjoy doing, right? So they live in Arizona or Florida or hot destinations over the winter, and then tour long distances over the course of the summer, right? So part of their lifestyle is touring, right? They understand that if you're going to purchase a significant vehicle like an RV, you're going to have to put fuel in it. But it'll be interesting as we kind of go forward in the next few months, what that impact of fuel costs is on that other, free independent traveler that's traveling. Maybe they stay a little bit closer to home, making their travel decisions that way. In terms of buyer's market for tours and shows, that's also going to be interesting. One of the challenges that we've kind of recognized over the last few months is the inconsistency of everything across the board in Canada, right? The touring market has opened up down south, but it hasn't quite opened up to that same extent in Canada as of yet, just based on capacity restrictions, right? Some of the prices have remained pretty close to the same in some regards. Some bands are asking for a little bit more, and some of them are asking for a little bit less, right? So it's really, it's kind of all over the map right now. We're looking at a few different opportunities, again, for the fall, now that we've kind of booked a number of different events for the spring, some smaller ones, some larger ones, Johnny Reed in April and May, Brett Kissel obviously in June, Monster Trucks in May, and then we'll see what, that whole transition into 2023 will bring for that touring market as they're able to piece together, proper tours across the entire country again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Dustin, for your presentation. It's exciting for our city to see that facility be back open, and it's been a long couple of years of tax money going to an empty facility, so there's some excitement about these projects. It's good to see. I'm just curious about tourism. It's a small part of this presentation, but I wanted to just hear what the future of what you guys are working on and what the plan is for this tourism season, and where we're being proactive and in the area, or doing programs to have people stay extra days, and I just want to hear a little bit more about what you guys are working on.
Yeah, no, actually, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Councillor Dober. First and foremost, the attention right now is staffing up, right? I think that's one thing that is kind of a challenge across both entities right now, is making sure that we have enough people in place in order to service the guests when they arrive in Dawson Creek or within the facility. So that's a bit of a process right now in terms of making sure that we have enough counselors staffed and trained, ready, so that when we pull the switch after May long weekend and we go to a 7-day schedule at the visitor center, that everything's ready to go and buttoned up on that side. In terms of programming, again, the mobile visitor center has been a success over the last 2 years during COVID. That's definitely part of our plan as well, now that our councillors can safely move about with the trailer to different communities and represent Dawson Creek in that fashion. Some of our print material is getting updated. One of the more popular campground gas station guides, etc., that we utilize for all our travelers as they kind of visit the visitor center here, because it's one of the more frequently visited visitor centers along the Alaska Highway trip. So it provides some great information and for those individuals making different stops along the route. Updating some of our photography. So we talked to a few photographers in the region to provide us with a few updates on some things, so that we can use those images across our social media channels and website, etc. So those are a couple of things that we're working on. Again, looking at the Dawson Creek exhibition is kind of a big celebration, and being on site for that event, providing some guest services with our tourism staff there. The summer cruise, again, will be happening in July, so that's another big event for the community, and being a part of that one. And then kind of just working on some other kind of smaller initiatives at the visitor center, such as this is the 80th anniversary of the Alaska Highway, so providing kind of a few things along the way, so that guests that come into the visitor center have that something extra special for their 80th anniversary trip.
Thank you. And just one other thing just came up. Like I know you guys obviously got to ramp up for the summer when you go to extended hours, but is there like a full-time manager that looks after tourism?
Yeah.
That is on through the winter?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have a visitor services manager that is basically part-time, full-time, right? She works 3 days a week throughout the winter. And before she came back from maternity leave, she was a full-time person, but has chosen to work part-time because of family.
And strictly with tourism?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you for coming in this morning. Good to see
Very much.
Next item is Development Services Manager. Morning, Bill.
Morning.
Welcome.
Thanks. Morning, everyone. I'll be presenting the Committee of the Whole report for Development Services for the month of February. Just wanted to touch base on recycling. So not sure if everyone recalls, we started auditing last week of February. So we've had 2 recycling streams, February 28th and March 14th. So we were partnered with NEAT. But we were facing some obstacles with the auditors, third-party auditors that we had. So one was incomplete data, which was resulting in bylaws inability to issue warnings and fines, and then not getting enough bins audited, which was a lack of a complete set of data. So what we really need to see is getting as many bins audited as possible, so we can pinpoint those high contaminant areas and get those contamination levels down in those areas. So we reached out to Aubert, and they're going to be doing the auditing this week moving forward. So they have 4 supervised teams, vehicle transportation, and staff feel that new auditors will help reduce contamination levels and get our auditing in a more favorable direction. Moving on to BC Energy Step Code, we worked with the Community Energy Association. They'll be facilitating Northern BC's Step Up to Step Code training. It'll be a Zoom delivered training April 12th. So it'll be kind of like Step Code 101 for contractors. There'll be kind of a meet and greet with energy advisors. So there's a mentor in Prince George who mentors up and coming energy advisors, Rod Kroom, Angel out of Fort St. John, and our new energy advisor in Dawson Creek, Brett Curiata. There'll also be a QA period for contractors after that as well. In the 2022 capital works that was mentioned in the Committee of the Whole report, we had 13th Street to 17th Street on 94th and 96th, as well as Camarlo, put into one tender proposal. That changed. We got some feedback from contractors. They wanted that broken up into 3 contracts. So just so council's aware of that. Onto emergency management. They applied for a grant application through Union of BC Municipalities, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for $14,000 and change. That'll go towards, if awarded, would go towards a laptop, enhanced radio communications, and 2 applied emergency management training exercises. Those exercises are a requirement under the city's emergency management program. And news and noteworthy, Troy Greek, our building inspector, completed the Building Officials of BC Level 2 course, and he's working on taking the Level 2 exams. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bill.
Committee of the Whole, any questions?
Questions? Council? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Bill. Good to see you. Just a follow-up with respect to the tender proposals for the roadworks that were requested to be broken up. I know initially our intention in putting that out as one bid is in the hopes that we could secure some cost savings through economies of scale? Was it just the feedback received that it was too much work for one company to bid on, and it was a capacity concern, or was there something else that led them to provide that feedback?
So through your worship, what we heard is well, originally, yes, we'd hoped that it would attract possibly some larger construction firms or some interest. That didn't seem to be the case. The feedback we got is that if it is one large project, you're tying up bonding, and that was problematic for a number of bidders. So there was concerns around that we may not get people to bid on it just because it was too much to bite off. So that's why we made the decision to break it out into 3 pieces.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further for Bill? On the recycling, the equipment's now installed on the trucks with, is that into operation now, and they're utilizing that and still working through that process? Is that proving to be of some value?
Good question. They're still working. It's installed on the trucks. They're still working on the logistics of getting that data to city staff in a timely fashion. So I'll have an update on next committee of the whole report.
All right,
in regards
thank you.
to that.
What's contamination rates right now? About?
So through your worship, I chatted with Jeremy last week, and he said the last couple of cycles have been about 15%. So better than what it's been.
Okay.
So hopefully some of the auditing has moved that in the right direction, and we'll continue to move in that direction.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
16.4, we have Shantae, the report from the Health and Safety.
Through your worship, I'm happy to report on the February and March safety. As you guys are aware, safety is a key part of our organization. It's what keeps our people safe and ensures that we have safe practices and make sure that they go home each and every day back to their families, how they came to us at work each day. Some of the highlights that we just want to talk about is April 8th, I want to talk a bit about what's happening with COVID-19. So as of April 18th, vaccination passes will no longer be required in any facilities or businesses. Safety plans will no longer be in effect, and instead transitioning back to communicable disease plans. These plans encompass and follow instructions such as stay at home if you're sick, wash your hands regularly, physical distancing when possible, disinfecting equipment and services regularly, cover your mouth and nose when sneezing and coughing, good ventilation system within the building, and support employees in receiving vaccinations. We also, the second part that we'd like to talk about is the news and notes. We will be hosting in-person, face-to-face day of mourning ceremony on April 28th, where workers and families, employees and others come together at an event held around the province to remember those who have lost their lives on the job and to renew our commitment to creating safe workplaces. Ours will be held on Thursday, April 28th. The ceremony will happen approximately at noon, and then we'll host the barbecue as we generally do over at the fire department. And then I just wanted to say the next focus that we'll have as we continue on, as we pass the core at 96% in 2021, we'll be working on the action plan, and then we'll be audited again in 2022 with the core as part of the plan within the 3 years. Are there any questions within the safety report?
Thank you, Shantae. Thank you. And so now I think we're 10:30, so we'll take a 7-minute break and conclude with the final 2 or 3 reports on our Committee of the Whole. Thank you. Call ourselves back to order, and our next item on the agenda, 16.5 is the report from our Director of Infrastructure. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to provide a little bit of an update here on current public works operations. We started sweeping here in the downtown and the mains starting this week. We still have maybe a little bit of salt or a little bit of snow in the forecast, but it's nothing we can't handle. We got to get the streets cleaned up. There's lots of gravel on the streets from the winter operations. Our steaming is also ongoing. As you see, there's lots of culverts blocked up, and that's just a a factor of the whiplash weather that we've been seeing. And we're also working on potholes. It's pothole season already, so we're doing our best to get on that. We have a new vac truck that's here, and our training is starting on Wednesday. So this is in addition to our one vac truck that we already have. The new truck has a glycol system, so that means it can work in cold weather, which is really exciting. Our old truck couldn't work below 0 degrees. So this new truck is not a sewer flushing truck, but it specializes in digging. But what that means is that our current sewer flushing truck can work more often doing sewer flushing during the summer, and we don't have to pull it off to do hydro excavations for valves or hydrants or whatever else we're digging. So we're really excited about that. And the manufacturer's coming down. We ordered that truck. The manufacturer, is coming down for training on Wednesday. We ordered that truck, I think, mid-year last year, and it came before some of our pickups. So it's just the state of the world these days. Pickup trucks are in a lot higher demand, I guess. Note about freshet. Freshet began in the Dawson Creek watershed on March 15th, and from now on, we're just expecting a gradual melt with no significant rain in the forecast, so that's looking good for our community. Freshet in Kiskatna, though, in the Kiskatna watershed, seems to be proceeding normally, so that usually occurs mid to late April. So it's still rather cold in that area, so we're still a few weeks out from seeing that. I wanted to also give you an update on the water sales kiosk project. That project is the project, as you recall, is to replace the point of sale system in the water sales systems, as well as the truck waste facility and the reclaimed water facilities. Construction is planned to come up in the coming months, and we posted something online on the website just saying big changes are coming, but we're still working through the company what that looks like. So there's going to likely be some challenges to this, as it's a change to our current system. The new system is going to operate by inputting your liters first once you've signed into your account. Not a fob system, but a sign-in account and password system. It's going to operate a lot like a gas station. You put in your liters and then you go. You will still have the ability, though, I want to say, to stop the transaction early if you put in too much, and it's not just going to run until you're done, just like a gas station. The payment system is something that's going to be a little bit interesting. It only right now accepts credit cards, and it's an online portal system. So instead of rural customers coming in and getting water credits at City Hall, they have the ability to have a dashboard and a portal online, pay online, and they can pay right from their phone. They can see how much credits they have on their system. They can also top up their credits. One of those things that it means, though, is that we right now can't take money at City Hall. So we're currently working with Computrol, which is the system, to see if we can build that into the system. It seems like the code is there, and we're trying to find a solution. I don't really want to start construction until I have a solution on that. And but we don't expect many people to use the front desk option once they have the ability to pay online. Thank you. Is there any questions on that?
Thank you, Devin. Councillor Wilbur.
Not a question, but I actually drove through it myself, so I know, but I've gotten a few phone calls. I don't know that I'd call it a pothole. I'd call it the beginning of a lake, and it's on 111th, right at the corner by the hospital where you're turning towards down past the park.
Okay.
So it literally engulfs the right lane, and it's moving into the next lane, so it's quite a...
Off of 10th.
So you
Off
put
of
that
10th
on
Street
your
there?
list? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make sure we put that on the list right after this.
Thank you. Anything further for Devin? Thank you, Devin.
Thanks.
Next up, we have 16.6. We have the report from our Financial Services Manager. Good morning. If you can just activate the mic, Michelle, yeah. Good morning. Welcome.
Morning.
We're going to hold you to 2 minutes. We're in a bit of a hurry.
Good. I might be under. Committee of the Whole for the Finance Department for the first quarter of 2022. Just a couple of highlights to mention. Our year-end audit, February 7th, Phase 1. The external auditors came in and did the city's tangible capital assets. Then Phase 2 was February the 22nd to the 24th, and they completed their audit. Everything went smooth. Finance is still on schedule to have the auditors present the financial statements on April the 25th. And I'd like to thank all our clerks downstairs. We had 3 clerks in different positions, so year-end was a little different for them. And we also had a new CFO, so that was a little different for all of us. The next thing is I wanted to mention was the shut-off policy. It was implemented in the last quarter of 2021. The utility clerk and the tax clerk worked together, calling several customers with outstanding balances. When informing the customers about the policies, staff discovered that several customers do not open their mail, weren't aware of the penalty or the shut-off policy, so they would let their utilities transfer to taxes. After explaining the 10% and the shut-off policy, 60 customers paid in full, and 27 customers currently signed up for the payment plan agreement. Just a little thing to note, in 2019, before the penalty or the shut-off policy, just about $700,000 transferred to taxes on December 31st. In 2020, in March, when the 10% penalty was introduced, the transfer to taxes was $226,000 lower. And then in the last quarter of 2021, when the clerks started calling, and the shut-off policy and the 10% were in place, it was $288,000 less. So over 2 years, it's less than $514,000 collecting.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's it.
Good job. Thank you, Michelle. Any questions? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Michelle. I just to highlight that it's great to hear. I understand we may have some amendments coming forward to refine it, and that's fine. It is a new policy. Got to be honest, to find out that people just aren't opening their mail, and that is potentially contributing to a situation where we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in outstanding utility bills is a little vexing. I mean, it's certainly, I think we're very proactive in trying to engage with the public, and that's disheartening to hear that so much time and resources and effort and frustration results from people not opening their mail. I don't know what you do about that, but it's makes you shake your head.
Thank you. Michelle, on the online billing for the water, how's that going? Do you know what the current state of, like, how many customers have signed up to the online billing versus the?
Over 2,000 customers receiving e-bills, and 739 have signed up for pre-authorization.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything further for Michelle? Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Yep.
Hope we didn't hold you up too long.
That was in my 2 minutes.
16.7, we have the report from our corporate officer. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go over a few things in my report. We are full into planning for the election. We went and did a tour of both the Co-op Mercer Hall and Quebec, just trying to choose the best location for the election for this fall. We are recruiting election officials and lots of training to do, so plans are underway there. Council orientation. All our communities in the region are in favor of hosting, or in favor of us hosting a council orientation. So we are full on in with that. Joe has done a lot of work with that, preparing, and we have presenters lined up, and each of the various communities in our region will be contributing their share for the expenses. This will most likely include the morning of the October 24th, so that would require council to consider moving that meeting date to later in the week. And usually that meeting right after the election there's not much business at that meeting because it's with the previous council. So hopefully we can move that meeting, but I'll present a report to council with a recommendation there. So now that we have our councillors appointed to the NCLGA committee, we will plan our first meeting for that with Chetwynd. Just want to talk a bit about the public notice changes coming down with Bill 26. Right now it's very expensive for us with our legislated advertising using the paper, and especially with the election coming forward. Those big half-page ads are very expensive. And so we're doing some research to find the best way to reach the majority of the residents in the community. We will probably go with one required advertising in the paper and then use social media, not social media, our webpage. It has to be something that's not just a one-day ad. It can't be a using Twitter, that type of thing. But we can use the second advertisement for our webpage, and then we feel that that will meet a lot of the requirements there. We will have a bylaw coming forward for council to consider, and we'll provide our background research with that. The other thing we're working on is we have a request for quotations for event planners for our fall fair. And once we get the best quote there, we will have them work with the mayor to plan the 100th anniversary fall fair event. And that's all I have to highlight on my report.
Thank you, Brenda. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Brenda, do we know anything about our application for an intern from NDIT? Do we know if we have one coming here?
That's for the communication person? Yes. That is going to be working with Elisa in their department. And they did have some interviews with some candidates. There wasn't as many applicants as there wasn't as many candidates as there was communities wanting them. So we needed to fight for our assistance with that, and I believe we were successful, right? Yeah. And I'm not sure. Do you know any more information on that, Shante?
So, Your Worship, I believe that we were successful. The candidate, they're working on the dates where the candidate will be coming to work for us in the near future. So that's all that I have, is that we were successful.
So what we can do is have Elisa provide that information to you by email.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I had a mom reach out to me, so I was wondering if the candidate was coming to the city or going to the PRRD. So that will help them with what they've requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further for Brenda? Thank you, Brenda. Anything further from administration that you need? Thank you, guys. So we have no closed meeting. So at this point, we will ask for a motion to adjourn our open meeting. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Dober.
We do not have a vote.
All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thanks, you guys. Have a great week.